and welcome to week 6 of Introduction to Technology. It's me again, Miss Bluff, and I am here to show you how to do a few different things in Microsoft Word that you're going to need to know how to do for your homework assignment this week. First thing I want to do is help you find Word, because sometimes it's not always a shortcut on the computer's desktop. Sometimes it is in one of the menus and you have to dig around a little bit. So you'll click on the Start button, and it'll look different depending on what version of Windows you have, but it should be more or less the same. So you'll click on this button right here, and if it doesn't show up in here, it doesn't say Microsoft Word in there anywhere, you go here to All Programs, and then you find where it says Microsoft Office. Hopefully you have a folder here that says Microsoft Office. And in there you'll find Microsoft Word 2010, and you can open it right there. The first thing I would like to do this week is review some of the important tabs we talked about this last week. As you notice, there's more tabs here than there were last week. This time I have all the tabs turned on, but last week we talked about the 5 most important tabs. We talked about the File tab, which has options for saving files, opening and closing some files, printing files, and some other things, but those are the main ones. Have the Home tab, which has the formatting options: cut, copy, paste, font size, bold, italic, font highlight, color, bullets, numbering, alignment, and styles. We're going to talk about styles this week. We have the Insert tab, which lets you put in things like a page break. We're going to talk about this week. Tables, pictures, clip art, hyperlinks, headers and footers. We've done that before. You're going to need to put in a header again this week. Text box, word art, other fun stuff. We have the Page Layout tab, which changes how the page is laid out, and it will change things like colors, margins, page orientation. Remember that from last week: portrait versus landscape, size of the page, columns, spacing between lines, page alignment, things like that. One we're going to skip over for this week is going to be the References tab. We're going to skip over that. We're going to skip over the Mailings tab. We are going to go to the Review tab this week for spell check, and we'll take a look at that. And then the 5th tab that we looked at last week is the View tab, where you can look at the way it changes the way you see it on screen. You can go to full screen. That was full screen. Sorry, outline, draft. You can turn the ruler on and off. You can change how many pages you want to see: 1 page, 2 page, zoom in, things like that. You can change, if you have multiple Word documents open, how they're arranged on the page. Okay, so that's kind of a review real quick from last week. Let's review a couple skills. Just to remind you, and I'm going to use the on-screen keyboard, which I don't normally use, but I want to make sure you're seeing exactly what I'm doing. When I use the Control, Shift, and Alt, these keys down here, they're going to go ahead and light up, so that'll help you remember what we're doing. But just remember the most important keyboard shortcut you can ever learn. There's 2, I've said before. One of the keyboard shortcuts you can use is Control Z. You hold down the Control key, see how it lights up, and then you click Z, and that will undo whatever it was that you just did. Well, we haven't done anything, so there's nothing to undo. But the other most important keyboard shortcut you can learn is Control S. What does that do? It brings up the thing to save your file, and it won't bring anything up actually after you've saved it the first time. You can go ahead and save it. We'll just save it as test file because we're not going to really do anything with this, or practice. It's called practice. And after you've saved it once, every time after that you press Control S, it will save it again automatically. It's not going to bring up the box to save it. It will only do that the first time when you're giving it a new file name. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is make a numbered list. So let's just type some things on the paper. Item 1, it's not really on the paper. Sorry, it's in Word. Item 1, item 2, item 3. Okay, say we want to turn these into a list. We go ahead and highlight them, and we're going to click on the numbered button right here. in the Home tab, and that will make a numbered list just like that. The next thing I'm going to kind of remind you how to do is change the alignment. Right now it's set as left align. If you look over here, to change it to right alignment, remember you can either press the alignment button right there, or you can hold down Control, press R, that makes it right aligned. To center align, Control E, that makes it center aligned. And if you want to put it back left, Control L makes it left aligned. Okay, if you want to insert a bullet, again up here, it's right next to the numbers. You're going to click on bullet, and that puts in bullets. Okie doke. Go ahead and take a look at some new skills to fiddle with. Actually, a new tab that we're going to look at this week is the Review tab up here, and it's got some different options in it. Thesaurus, word count, we're not going to worry about most of this. The only one we're going to worry about over here all the way on the left is spelling and grammar. So what that will do is it will spell check. So let me misspell something. I'll spell item wrong, T-I-E-M 4. And then let's try today is, I'll leave that like that, Friday. Again, I misspelled that stuff. So see how it's got the red squiggly lines under this? That means something is misspelled. What you can do is you can either right click and it's going to give you a suggestion and you can fix it that way. Or if you want to do the whole document at the same time, you can go up here to spell check. Okay, red squiggly means misspelled. Green squiggly means grammar. We're not going to worry about grammar this week, so we're going to click on ignore. Let's say we want to spell check everything. You'll click the spelling and grammar button. It helps if you make sure the mouse is at the beginning, but it doesn't have to be. And it's going to change it, and here it says, well, what do you want? Do not always go with the first suggestion it gives you, because if I went with change all, it's going to go with the first suggestion on the list every time. Well, I don't want to say today so Friday, I want to say today is Friday, right? So I'm going to click on is, and click on change. And then the second one, it's going to give me the correct suggestion. I'll click on change. So, and then it'll tell me spelling and grammar check is complete. It's that easy. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is change text color. That's also pretty easy. That's back in the Home tab, formatting. Remember, all the formatting stuff's in Home. You're going to highlight what you want to change and see the letter up here. It has the color red underline underneath it. You can change that to whatever you want. You can pick one of these here, or you can click more colors and it's going to give you a whole bunch of different options to pick from. But for now, we're just going to go turn it red just because. Second thing I'm going to show you, another text option. You can turn something into all capital letters. I'm actually going to zoom in a bit. There we go. You can do this a couple ways. You can either right click, highlight what you want to change, right click it and go to font, and you can change it to all caps right here. Let me move that keyboard out of the way. There we go. And then you'll click OK and see it changes it to all caps. Or, okay, remember how to undo this that we just did, because I don't want to leave it like that. Control Z, undo that. I can go again up here to the Home tab, and it's going to be up here. See this button? Sorry, not that. See this button right here? You'll click on that and you'll change it to uppercase. That's how that works. The other thing you can do, again, Control Z to undo, you can also do small caps where, right click, font, and small caps will make it so everything is in capital letters, but the first letter, anything that's normally capitalized, is going to be larger. So say we wanted to make the font bigger. Remember, keyboard shortcut, and you're going to press Control and then this key to make it bigger, or Control and this key to make it smaller, right? That's another review. So see how the first letter that I'd already capitalized is bigger and the rest are smaller, but they're still all caps. That's exactly what small caps does. After that, we're going to look at double strike through. What you can do, again, highlight it, right click, go back to the font menu, and there's single and double strike through. You can go strike through, which puts one line through it, and you can do double strike through, which puts two lines through it. You'll need double strike through for this week's assignment. Next thing you'll need for this week's assignment is the highlighter tool. So you'll highlight this text and you can go up here, change text highlight color, but then also what you can do, remember, Control Z, undo that. Also what you can do is select the text, and then remember how the little menu will pop up when you're trying to do a lot of stuff. This is one of those things that's in the menu. And you can go ahead and choose text highlighter. This week actually we will have to make it yellow, so I'll do that. And then the last thing you're going to need to do is insert page break. There's two ways you can do this. You can either go to the insert menu right here, and what you need to do is you need to move the cursor right before where you want the page break. A page break, if you remember from this week's vocabulary, creates a new page. So say you want this line to be the first line on the new page, you'll put the page break right at the beginning of this line, and you'll click in the insert tab, you'll click on page break, and now it has Today is Friday on its own page. If you zoom out, you can see you've got this page and then this page. Okay, undo, remember, Control Z. So now we've got it back the way it was before. The other way to insert the page break, and this is how I prefer to do it, is hold down the Control key and press Enter, and that puts in a new page break, and it's really fast to do it that way. Insert symbol. So again, we are back here in the Insert tab, and you're going to go all the way over here. See this group called Symbols? This last thing right here, Symbol. And you have a lot of different choices, and basically it's things that you normally wouldn't use, so they're not on the keyboard, but you might use them sometimes, like math symbols, weird letters, copyright symbol, which is what you're going to need for this week's homework. You'll click on that. But say there's another symbol that you need to use that's not on this list right here. More symbols will get you this, and you can scroll through a bunch of different letters with accents and things. Say you're taking a Spanish class, you need to type something. There's all sorts of different odd little symbols in there, so you can play with that. It's kind of fun. There's a couple other things that I would like to show you before we look at this week's assignment. First one is going to actually, we'll use the assignment itself. So let's go down, we'll use one part of the assignment. So let's go download that right here. Click on it. And remember, you click on the download button. Then it's going to show it down here. You can click on Show All Downloads. Click Open Downloads Folder. It's going to give you this folder right here. You can click Control X to cut it. Open your Documents folder. Click Control V to paste it in there. And now we have the file saved, so we can go ahead and close the website. Let's open the file. We'll click Enable Editing. It just means you, right here, Protective View, just means you downloaded it. You can go ahead and click Enable, and now it's okay. And one of the tricks that I'd like to show you is use the Control key for using keyboard shortcuts. You use the Shift key for making things capital. You've used the arrow keys for going back and forth. Keys you may not have used, but I just want to make sure you're aware of, because I use them all the time, are Home and End. Now we're already home, because if you see where the cursor is, it's already at the very beginning of the line. End will take the cursor to the end of the line you're on. Again, Home, bring it to the, and Home will bring it to the beginning. So end of the line, Home, beginning of the line. Page down will move the cursor down one screen. So see, we were on the previous screen before. We went page down. It brought us down a screen. A few more lines. Now we'll go back page up. A few more lines. Page down, page up. Again, End, Home. Okay, so let's take a look at Control keys right here. We got the Control key and we've got the arrow keys. So what we're going to do is hold down the Control key. See, it's lighting up down here. Then you'll click the arrow key and watch the cursor. It's going to jump from space to space. Moving, 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 moving. You can hear me clicking my mouse. So that's gonna, that moves you quickly between keys, and that's kind of, or between words, and that's kind of nice if you're trying to move around. You may, again, you can stick to the keyboard and you're not just doing this. You're not just hitting the arrow key one at a time, going letter by letter, because that's kind of slow. Control up moves you up one whole paragraph at a time. Every time you hit enter, it's going to go up, or control down will move you down a paragraph at a time every time you hit enter. So at the end of this paragraph, I hit enter. At the end of that line, I hit enter. And if here, hit enter. So see, it's moving the mouse up and down. Okay, now I'm back at the beginning again. Shift, if you hold down the shift key and press the arrow keys, it's going to highlight. So see how that's highlighting those words up there? So you can actually combine those things. If you hold down control shift, now you can highlight words at a time. Or that's from side to side. If you hold control shift down arrow or up arrow, depending on which way you want to go, you can highlight whole paragraphs at a time. This is honestly one of those things I think people don't use enough. It can be really frustrating to watch people trying to change something and they see, and you're moving the mouse one at a time. So if you just hold down the control key, see, making it light up, and press the arrow key, you can jump around. Also, you got to be a little careful with it. Control backspace will delete an entire word. Okay, now control Z for undo. So if you're holding down the control key and you mean to move, don't accidentally hit control backspace, because that will delete words at a time. That can also be quick too, because you can delete a bunch of words if you hit control backspace. See that? Now let's go undo, 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 undo. Quick way to select the whole row. Say your cursor's in the middle like this. You can either use your mouse and you can come over here and click on the side and that will select the row, or if you just want to use keyboard shortcuts, click the home key, hold down the shift key, see how this lights up, and now click the end key and that's going to do an entire row. This seems slower, but honestly, once you get used to using keyboard shortcuts, this is going to be a lot easier. Control shift and then down arrow. Now I'm highlighting entire paragraphs. Again, see, moving around. It's going to make stuff a lot easier when you get to using keyboards like that. Okay, and then one last trick I want to show you on the keyboard, and this actually does also involve the mouse, but it does make things a little faster sometimes. Hold down the control key, and then you know how your mouse has the scroll wheel in the middle? If you scroll the scroll wheel, it will zoom in and out as long as you're holding down the control key. This trick also works in websites, web browsers. So if there's a website where the text is really, really tiny and you want to make it bigger, you can hold down the control key, see it's lighting up, and you can scroll up and it's going to zoom in. Or you can scroll out and it's going to zoom out. And in Microsoft Word, if you zoom out far enough, it's going to show you more pages. Here, there's only a couple pages so far to show you. But control and then the scroll wheel and you will zoom. Last thing I want to show you before we go over some of the stuff in the lesson is, we went over Find before. You can either in the Home tab right up here, you could go all the way to the end, there's Find. You can also use the keyboard shortcut. I prefer to use the keyboard shortcut Control F, and that will bring up the Find window. But this week we're going to talk about the replace function also. So say you want to replace, every time it says George in here, say you want to replace it with John. So make sure you spell George right. So remember with Find, it's going to highlight every single time it uses George. And over here it's going to show you the sentence it's in. What you can do is you can click here to go to replace. It says find what? What do you want to find? George? Okay. What do you want to replace it with? John. You can do replace all, but this can screw up sometimes, because say you want to find the word hi and replace it with hello. So you could go replace and you find hi and replace it with hello. If you go replace all, it says 31 replacements. Wow, I didn't realize hi was in there so much. Except that it's not. Every time that it had the letters HI, it changed it to hello. So George and hellos, fellows, landowners. The hellos. Wash Hellington. Yeah, no, not a good idea. So we'll go Control Z, undo that. Something you can do to fix that so that doesn't happen is you can put a space after what you're looking for, and that means it'll only look for those letters with a space after them. That means usually it'll, or before them, you can do a space before, and it'll only find those words. Anyway, so we say we want to replace George with John. Let's go one by one, replace, 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 and you can see that it's replacing them one by one. Oh, we didn't finish that one, did we? I think you get the idea. You can do replace all, and it's going to tell you what it did there. So now we have John Washington did this, John did this, John did this. Now it's replaced everything. Undo. Let me make sure we got all of them. There we go. You have to undo these one at a time. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Okay, another keyboard shortcut to remind you of, Control A. Remember, selects everything. You're going to need that this week. You're going to need to remember how to double space. So Control A, and then that's either here in the paragraph. You change the spacing, you change it to 2.0, or what you can also do is right click and go to paragraph, and you can choose line spacing double, and that will also make it double. So you'll need to do that this week. You'll need to spell check. So we talked about that before. That's in the review tab. And again, make sure you check every single one, because sometimes it may suggest something that's not misspelled. In this week's spell check, it's going to, here, you'll go change that. But look, it says George Washington's wife's last name. That's spelled correctly. That's not misspelled. So you don't want to change that. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to look at for this week is going to be styles, and that's back in the Home tab again, because that's all the formatting options. So one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change the style of this first line here in bold. So you'll click on that to highlight it, and then you'll go up here and you're going to have to put the title style on it. So see, if you even just hold the mouse over it, it's going to show you what it's going to look like. Pretty nice. So you move it away, but you have to click on it to make it go. Now you have a style. Then you're going to have to change the underline stuff to heading 1. You can either come up here every single time you highlight it and click on that, or what you can do, keyboard shortcut, hold down the Control. Yeah, let's back up. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut. You hold down the Control and Alt keys. Let's do that. And you'll click the number 1, and that's going to make heading 1. If we did Control Alt 2, it would make heading 2, things like that. But we're just going to do 1. Highlight it. Again, either click on heading 1, or I think it's faster, keyboard shortcuts, Control Alt 1. The more you use them, the more you get used to them. Home. See, now this becomes even easier, because now I'm going to highlight the whole line with the keyboard. Control Alt 1. Home. Shift End. Control Alt 1. Home. Shift End. Control Alt 1. Instead of having to move my mouse every single time. Here, let me do that whole thing with the keyboard. Okay, so we have to do the title up here. But now, put the mouse there. Shift End. Control Alt 1. Skip to the next paragraph, Shift End, Control Alt 1. Control down, remember, skips to the end of skips to the next paragraph, Control down. So then Shift End, Control Alt 1, Control down, Shift End, Control Alt 1, Control down, Shift End, Control Alt 1, Control down, Shift End, Control Alt 1. Ta-da! See, it's a lot faster than, okay, let me go ahead and highlight this, and let me go up here and click this. Now let me go ahead and highlight this, now let me click this. So after a while, you will get pretty quick with that. So this should pretty much wrap it up for this week. Hopefully all of these video tutorials helped. If you're still stuck, go into lab and get the lab teachers to help you, or you can ask your teacher and they can help you also. Have a good day.